tentative budget. Kind of just going to go over the 2021 budget recap, then hit the 2022, and then talk about our ongoing water projects, and then if anyone wants to ask questions or discuss, we'll do that. And then starting with the 2022 budget, because everyone always looks at their tax bill and sees all the taxes, just want to mention that for the 2020 tax levy, 23% was the county, 70% was the school, and only 7% of the tax bill was the town, which is about $207 if your house is assessed at $150,000, which is the number I'll be using a lot through these slides, because that is what Erie County uses to compare town to town. So that is what I used. So that's just kind of a breakdown of what your house would be like last year. So we're gonna then look at obviously the town portion and how it relates to towns of similar populations. Our comparable populations are mostly Collins, Eden, Boston, Concord, and Newstead, and we actually fall lowest of those. You can kind of see how these are the populations, and they're in order of smallest to largest. You can see how their taxes fluctuate. That is on a home assessed at $150,000 again, and then the tax rate still is low. Lowest of those five that we're comparing. And then for our budget at the town, appropriations, if people don't always know what that means, that is just the budgeted expenditures. It is the accounting term for that. Estimated revenues is any revenues other than property tax. Fund balance is the fund balance planned to be used, and then taxation is obviously the property tax to be raised. For the 2021 budget, it broke down by fund with 6% to general fund, 27% to highway, 25% to fire, less than 1% to light, ambulance was 3%, 24% to garbage, and 14% to water. And our total taxation was $3,066,088. So I mentioned fund balance. Not everyone knows what that is. It is what is left after the fund's assets have been used to meet its liabilities. An increase in fund balance means that you either had projects planned that you didn't spend all your money on, you found a way to reduce costs, such as cutting back services or getting a lower price, or you got unanticipated revenues, or maybe like sales tax came in more than you expected, and that all adds to fund balance. And then classifications of fund balance, you can have non-spendable, which are such as prepaid items as inventory, or we prepay retirement because their year is different than the town's. Restricted, which is like grant money. Committed, which is like the reserve accounts that we have. It's constrained by the town board. The assigned is for specific funds like street lighting, garbage collection, and then the unassigned is general fund only, and is to be used for any purpose that benefits the whole town. Reserve funds are a legally authorized savings account, essentially. We have them for the highway equipment, ambulance equipment, and then there's a few of them in the general fund, such as drainage, and there's one for recreation and tax stabilization and a few others. And those are listed here. So these are the general fund ones: tax stabilization, building and parks, recreation, drainage. There is a reserve for equipment in highway, a ambulance one, and one for debt in the water fund. And then just up here, it breaks out the non-spendable, general and highway. Like I said there, that was the retirement system amount that was prepaid. The reserve accounts are on the second line, and then assigned for specific use, you see, is every fund other than general, and general fund is the unassigned on the fourth line. Together, that is the amount that is on the AUD, and then our 2020 anticipated use of fund balance, I changed it a little bit from what the budgeted amount was because I have done further analysis on how much we will actually be using throughout this year, and in some cases, like garbage is expected to come in under budget because we're trying to build up fund balance because we're below our minimum, which our minimum is right here. You can see we're below it, so we're expected to add around $36,000 to fund balance this year. And then water, we've been trying to build a little bit of fund balance because we haven't had a ton of costs. And light, we had LED savings, so that will build the fund balance. But these ones that are in the positive will be actually supposed to be draining from fund balance. And then we get our 2022 planned use, which is straight from the 2022 budget, and then our ending amount there, which we compared to our minimum to try and see where we are in line, and that is to try and make sure we're watching our fund balance, we're not letting it get too high without a plan to spend it, because then you're overtaxing the taxpayer, or not letting it get too low, because then you could have problems paying your bills. And we did create a fund balance policy in 2019, I believe, 2018, 2019. So onto the 2022 budget, kind of like you saw before, our appropriations, which are our budget expenditures, are here. Our revenues other than property tax are there, which is mostly sales tax and interest, a few other things. Appropriated fund balance is what I just mentioned on the last slide, and then our property tax is there. So our 2022 budget compared to our 2021 budget, I lined them up next to each other. You can see general fund is going down, light is going down, and then we're going to have an increase in garbage and water one, as well as a few miscellaneous increases due to assessment changes. So the overall tax levy is going from $3,066,088 to $3,165,013, which is an increase of $98,925, and that can be broken down by $28,188 of assessed value changes from, that is when the assessor adds on new properties, and also the equalization rate plays into effect there. The garbage fund is going to have a $20 increase per parcel because we're adding at your door service, more on that later. Water District 1, 40% increase because of water projects, also more on that later. Lighting fund, we had LED savings, so we're going to decrease the tax by 15%. General fund, to kind of balance out with those increases, we're going to be decreasing that 12%, which gives you $18,000 less. And then changes to unpaid water, I put here is -103 because that's what was on the tentative budget, but that will be decreasing more because due to the COVID moratorium, we cannot re-levy those this year. So that will be wiped to zero this year, which is only $400, but it's $400. And then our total increase of tax revenue is right now $98,925. So where we sit in lane to the tax cap, which you hear all the time, this was last year's, it's calculated because last year's tax times the growth factor that we're allowed is 1.0083, our 2% tax cap, and then our carryover from last year, we're allowed to be at $3,166,772, and we come in just under that by very little, but under it nonetheless. So our actual rates, if you look at the rate page of the budget itself, this is where that is. So I compared here the changes which match up to what I already said. General fund and light fund decrease, garbage fund increase, and water one increase. The rest of them, the rates are staying the same. So on an assessed value house of $150,000, what your rates would equal out to be would be, here would be the annual tax for each of those funds, and then water, it kind of depends on what district you're in, if you're in a district at all. And then I just have here the weekly cost and the daily cost of what your taxes breakdown would be. And this is all an estimate, because most people don't have a house at exactly $150,000, and other things play into fact, like exemptions, but that is what we're using. And then also, the assessor brings it to my attention that people often call her up and say, well, you changed my fair market value on my tax bill. No, it changed because the equalization rate changed. So if your assessed value stays the same, 100,000 to 100,000, from 21 to 22, our equalization rate dropped from 0.78 to 0.73. So your house value would have gone from 128 to 136 on your tax bill, but you're being taxed on the assessed value, less exemptions, and this is why your market value changed on your tax bill. So a comparison of the year after year, this is what I just showed you. I calculated for this year. If you compared the slides, you would see that the 2022 amount lined up with that, and then 2021, 2022. So you can see in graph form the general fund decrease, the light small decrease because it's small all around, but then an increase here and steady there. and water, you can see steady, the numbers are the same year after year, and then you can just compare.
What does the low high mean?
So I applied it to the rates, so like low would be here 130, and then the
House
highest
versus parcel?
Yeah. So, like this house, $8 would be the low, and then 130 would be the high. So just trying to give the range there because it's based on assessed value and not on just a per parcel calculation. So then the tax rate year over years, based on the tax rate, here's some graphs. General fund, steady, a little increase, and then it's been decreasing. Fire, we increased it around the time of the contract negotiation because, and then we found out we had too much fund balance because of a couple things that didn't come to fruition, so that ended up getting decreased, and we've kept it down then. And then the highway, because we need new vehicles, has been going up. Ambulance has been pretty steady, slight increase, and then light is down and garbage is slightly up, following the trends I've already stated. So another one of these graphs, pretty much the same breakout as before. The general fund dropped from 6% to 5%, and the refuse went from 23 to 25. Otherwise, minor changes in our total tax here is what I mentioned before, 3,165,13. So our general fund, our 5%, I've got the piece of pie up there. 5% is all your employees, minus highway workers. It is the cost for all of the offices at the town hall, town clerk, assessor, court, supervisor, code enforcement. It's your dog control, your summer concerts, your attorney, your engineer, your nutrition, your seniors, your youth, all the advisory boards, the buildings, and the parks. And some of the things we are looking at upgrading, the salt barn roof, which is in process, the park shelter we're looking at, hoping to get improved for 2022. We're looking at a new parks truck and community room heating cooling system because it keeps having problems here. So the personnel services line, everyone loves to compare. It kind of is cut off at the bottom, but the increase year over year is 86,000, I believe.
83,816.
Thank you, 83,816. And that covers 4% raises for all employees, which there's 34 of them. General fund, full-time code enforcement officer, putting the 2 parks laborers who are seasonal to a full-time status and offering them benefits, and removing the part-time cleaner because we're contracting that due to COVID right now. So the elected officials, this is separated out. You can see last year there was no changes for the councilmen and only 2% for the others. And then this year they have the same 4% everyone else was proposed. Then the revenue sources for the general fund that are other than property taxes are 50% of our general funds comes from sales tax, 13% from mortgage tax, court fines is 10%, property tax is 9%, then franchise fees, rent from the trooper barracks, New York State AIM, departmental income, and interest is only 1%. So the dollar values are over there just to compare. So actually, unlike what people think, property tax is not paying much in the general fund. It's not covering salaries or much of anything. Most of it is covered by sales tax. So this, people can kind of look at later, or I can go over any department that you want, but this lists out mostly what we consider for each department. So like most of the offices, supervisor is small, it's office supplies, membership dues, training. Assessor, same thing. They're decreasing because they're dropping the ORS software. The records management is going to DocuWare, so they have an increase in their equipment. Buildings, we have a whole bunch of planned renovations that we're hoping to get grants for, so we have to have match money. And then we decreased our contingent account because we just haven't been using it the last few years. And another one to highlight is traffic control. We have a lot of road signs that were identified as needing to be upgraded, and street lighting decreased because of the LED conversion. And then parks, we need a new tractor, or a new truck, sorry. And then most of it's the same. You can see it here, I have listed same as 2021. A lot of the costs stayed the same because they're rolling costs year after year. The bus trips year after year, the office supplies year after year. We are increasing brush to 80,000. That was the recommendation of the highway superintendent. The last 2 years it has gone over based on, we've been tracking the amount of time put in by their highway workers, how much fuel has been used, and then how many hours the vehicles have been running. So the last 3 years we tracked that. I think 80,000 is a good number. That's what the highway superintendent said to put in, so we increased it to that. Drainage and erosion, we decreased that slightly, still keeping 15,000 in each because our reserve fund has been growing there. So highway fund, we have 27% of your tax covers the salaries of the highway workers, their employee benefits, salt, sand, stone, road repairs, anything to do with the roads. And then the requested equipment this year was $106,910 for 2 Ford F600 trucks to replace the ones that we have from 2009. And then the dump box and plow for those 2 trucks would be another $170,000. And then the highway superintendent would be getting a new truck there. So highway fund, personnel services, we did a little bit different on the budget. It may look different, but I took the 21 weeks that were previously split between snow plowing town and snow plowing other government, grouped them all to the snow plowing town because we haven't plowed for the county in years. I actually split out 6 weeks for brush collection because that hasn't been a separate line of the budget in the past. But you can see that the highway fund salaries do stay totally in totality along the same lines, and they have that slight increase because of their 2% contract increase. It's not a full straight 2% because we had an MEO 5 leave and was replaced by a level 1 who is obviously paid less because of not the experience. So that's why it's not a straight 2% increase. More on the highway fund, obviously there are salary increases and that Social Security increase. Health insurance decrease just because the plans that they are on change over time. And then we are getting extra funding for CHIPS, Pave New York, and Extreme Winter. Those are expected $106,000, which is up just under $20,000, I believe. $28,000 for Pave New York, $24,000 for Extreme Winter, and those actually can roll year after year if we don't use it all. This year we plan to use it for the parks truck or the dump truck that we ordered in February, which we still don't have and is expected not until the beginning of next year because of supply chain problems. So that is the plan for next year too, is to use CHIPS towards the equipment as well. Hopefully things sort themselves out. I already went through the equipment. The brush and weeds cover the boots allowance, the guys get gloves, and then any roads clearance that needs to be done with trees. Also, snow removal costs went down at the recommendation of the highway superintendent because salt and sand are going down. Because the state contract was bid out and it actually came out insignificantly cheaper by a different company. So their equipment listing that was turned over to the supervisor, these were the ones that we replaced in 2020 and 2021. Here are the replacements, and then also we ordered these, they're not here yet, but then we're planning to replace the 2009 trucks and the highway superintendent's truck next year. But we still have 8 pieces of equipment that are more than 20 years old because we have not been cycling them out. Some of those, obviously, not even just the old ones, are falling into disrepair. So the highway guys deal with it great and get working what they can, but it's probably going to continue having trucks year after year. So the highway service revenue is mainly property tax, but also we put $2,050 of sales tax in there. They get chips. And then there's interfund revenue for the brush, and then fuel and interest. So then fire fund, 25% of the taxes of the overall budget is to that. It is for the 3 fire departments, Boston, Patchen, and North Boston. Dispatch services, which are through Hamburg, which is a 2% increase every year. Workers' comp, and then the LoSAP program, which has been underfunded a lot. It is a growing gap, and it's probably only continue growing until we reassess it and figure out how to change it. Honestly, it's going to have to change for new members at some point. Different conversation though for that. But for the ambulance fund, 3% of your tax, which is really small on the overall budget, is for the EMS Squad. They had gotten $40,000 for the last 2 years, but we're going to increase that to $45,000 because their insurance costs, their PPE, all of that has gone up due to COVID. They've been taking copious amount of calls. I know Jason has more stats on that, but they have a lot of calls. And then also the state mandated EPCR, electronic patient care reports. They had to acquire tablets, they had to acquire software. That was all on them. They also have to pay the ongoing self-service costs for that. So they're looking to us for help because they don't have very many sources of income themselves. So then there's dispatching services, 2% annual increase in the contract, and then they've been asking for a new ambulance for years. They have a 2008 one and a 2016, so the 2008 one kind of needs to go soon. And so our reserve account, I put the number here as of my last bank rec. The amount was $69,508. The workers' comp is also in this fund, the LoSAP, and the ambulance payment on the 2016 ambulance. The lighting fund, less than 1% of our taxes is the street lighting. It is what it is obviously when you go down the road. And we partner with NYSEG to replace them with LED lights, and it has saved money. We also partnered with NYMEP to decrease the supplier charges on the town's electric bills. And it has true cost savings. I was skeptical, but this is where the conversion happened. Our usage dropped and our cost dropped, and it's been consistent since. So that is why we are doing a 15% decrease in taxes. Should bring us more in line with cost.
Thank you.
And then garbage and refuse, 25% of your tax is waste management. The last contract we put on 2019, 2.5% contract increase is written into it. They were the only one to bid, and it has weekly trash as well as weekly bulk, which everyone should know, but a reminder for you if you don't. The blended value that's written into the contract has let the town recoup some of the recycling costs. So you can see that it's a per tonnage charge. So you can see it kind of went up and down based on the tons that we had and the market value. And then it has decreased recently. So we are actually getting a rebate onto our bill the last 2 to 3 months because of that. So at your door service is the reason for the increase in the fund for refuse. So we have this video that we are going to play to explain it. And we have to do it again.
Regularly, you place your unwanted items into your trash and recycling bins on the curb to be picked up. Did you know that there are items that do not belong in your trash cans, such as paint, pesticides, motor oil, batteries, gasoline, household cleaners, electronics, and more? Fortunately, there's an easy way to get rid of these items, known as home-generated special materials through Waste Management's At Your Door Special Collection Service. This service is available in your community to collect these items. The most common items collected are paint products, including oil and latex paint, thinner, spray paint, wood stain, preservative, garden chemicals such as herbicide, pesticides, insecticides, and fertilizer, consumer electronics, televisions, computers, monitors, keyboard, mouse, desktop printer, fax machine, DVD player, CD player, VCR, cell phone, microwave, and related cords. Household cleaners, which include shower and tile cleaner, toilet bowl cleaner, ammonia, bleach, rust remover, carpet and upholstery cleaner, and more. Many types of batteries, including household batteries, cell phone batteries, and even vehicle batteries. Thermometers, thermostats, and other mercury-containing devices. Straight fluorescent tubes and curly compact fluorescent lamps. Swimming pool chemicals. And flammable items such as gasoline and kerosene are included. These unwanted items can be easily picked up right at your home. All you need to do is schedule a home collection. Requesting home collection is easy when you take the right steps. Step 1. Schedule a home collection in one of 3 easy ways. Go to wmatyourdoor.com, email atyourdoor@wm.com, or call 1-800-449-7587. You will be asked several questions, including your address and the type and amount of materials to be picked up. Once the home address is confirmed for the service, a specific collection date will be given to you. Have your list of unwanted items ready. Step 2. Within a few days, you'll receive a large envelope that includes your containment bag, instructions, survey card, and pull tie. Open the envelope and read and follow the instructions. Step 3. On the specific date of your pickup, place the containment bag outside of your home at the specific location point by 7 a.m. This area can be near your front door or garage area. Your items should not be placed next to your trash can or on the curb. Certain items, such as vehicle batteries and electronics, do not go in the bag, but place them next to the bag. Make sure all items can be clearly identified. Labels are included in the kit, so if the original label has worn off, just put on a new one. You don't even need to be home for the appointment. Step 4. A technician will collect the eligible materials. If items are unlabeled, leaking, unsealed, or unknown, they cannot be collected and will be left at your home. Step 5. After your pickup, please provide your feedback on the survey card that was included in the kit. Just fill it out and mail it in. That's it. An easy and convenient way to help your community. At Waste Management, recycling is at the core of our business. Did you know that most of the items collected through this program are sent to be recycled? For questions and program details, contact the At Your Door Special Collection Team.
So that is something we are hoping to add for next year. Question?
Yeah, so that $20 increase, does that include the $2.16 a month, or is it
Yes.
$2.16 a month?
Yes, so it is, the cost is $2.16 a month per per household. So that would figure out to about $26 a year. The $20 would cover that. The town will cover the rest because of the recycling rebates that we've been getting. We're putting it towards it, and then if we need to reassess and add a little bit more next year so that the town isn't covering the full cost next year, we will. Or we can, if it's not a hit and the program doesn't go well, we can even get rid of it and then cut the taxes back. So that is kind of the plan, because we will get a portal. Jason knows more about this, but we will get a portal where we can see the usage of it and see if it's actually a service being utilized.
Okay.
So yeah, it is not in addition to that, it is figured into that.
Yeah, that ties into, so the way that breaks out, it's a completely separate program. It's not to be confused with standard, solid waste or household waste collection, which is why they say under New York State DEC regulations, these products can't be placed at the curb in all the areas that they tell you. So Waste Management has come up with an area, and since I sit on the NEST board, at the county level, we've been trying to find a way to deliver the service outside of the household hazardous waste and electronic waste collection events, which are limited to about 400 residents in an area, and sometimes those get filled up. Some people don't want to travel, let's say, to the north towns or wherever the event might be held. So Waste Management, this is a proof of concept. It's in other states. They have been using it. It's been used for a long time, and like Ellie stated, the town board, that is, we can access all of the information and see exactly what exactly is being collected, how much is being collected, and is there, from a business standpoint, is a return on the, on that cost or that investment to the public. Yeah, for many years, we've always heard, how do I get rid of my TV? How do I get rid of my computer or other things? Now, this pretty much covers everything that is
People like
out
to
there.
dump it on the side of the road and.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah, really the only thing that we don't have a solution for yet, something that's in the works and in the background, is basically tires. So right now, if it's something that's coming out of your household, there's a solution for it, and you don't have to travel anywhere. I mean, it just gets collected, so that's all it ties in.
I did not catch it. Did that cover like air conditioners and refrigerators? Was that on the list?
So that's part of your solid,
So the eligible items,
perfect segue.
yeah, actually it was. I believe air conditioner is on here, but some other,
Yeah, air conditioner, so,
items are not.
yes, anything that has, they're considered as white goods, so anything that has Freon in them, under state DEC regulation, it has to be,
Yeah. I deal
I
with
know
it
you-
every week.
yeah, I was just gonna say, we
Yeah.
get that, I'll call it hesitation from residents when they say, I have to contract with a licensed plumber to drain the Freon, yes, that's a DEC regulation. Once that has been properly identified
Oh,
and
it's
tagged,
microwave.
you know, that's when Waste Management will call a separate truck to pick it up, as you know, Sandy. However, I've always encouraged people that, hey, if you go buy a new refrigerator or a new appliance and they
Right.
offer $50 to haul that away, pay the $50 or buy it when it's a free, free collection with
It's
it.
usually that extra one that people have had in their garage
Yes,
that quit, so
Yep.
they may not be getting a replacement.
right.
That does have to be professionally removed, but they'll just to add to like just a TV, to get rid of a TV now is $30.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and it's limited to size, that's nothing larger than, I think it's a 30-inch TV, at least at Best Buy. So that size is going down, and they're getting picky on what they will and will not collect at these areas, even though it's a regulation that they are responsible for collecting them because they sell TVs. So now this is covering that area that we didn't have a solution for.
So, yeah, I don't know if air conditioner is on that list because, like microwave made it, televisions make it, but washer, dryer, refrigerators don't. So, that might be one of the ones that are, that might be one of the ones that are still excluded, that and tires and, as well as, obviously biological waste, explosives, fire extinguishers, things that, aren't on that very extensive list we just saw. So then onto the water districts. Right now it's 15% of the budget. It is the water district costs through Erie County Water. It is the debt payments and the fire hydrant costs. And our projects that we started and the constructions anticipated for 2022 are the repairs to each of the tanks and then some water line replacements in District 1, which is why the 40% tax increase in District 1 for the 2022 budget. So our current water debts, Water 3, which is the most recent, is still paying off theirs. They have the most. Water District 1, 2, and the extensions are pretty low. And going with that, Water District 3 won't pay off their debt for another 19 to 27 years, whereas Water District 1 and 2 will be paid off by 2023. So our ongoing projects are our water projects. So the first one is the 3 tanks that we've been talking about for the last at least 2 years. So Crestwood Water Tank is District 1. It has been surveyed by our engineers and all of these pictures taken into a complete report. These are the same pictures used at the presentations for the last 2 years. Rice Hill Tank, same thing, rust, wear, damage, holes through it where there shouldn't be. Wool Hider Tank, District 3, a lot of pictures that just don't look good. So as part of that, I don't know if Jason wants to hop up for this section, but he had more to do with this than obviously me, but he was working with Erie County Water. They offered to do the bidding out for the engineering for us, so we did the resolution for authorizing that agreement, and they're going to bid out for us with our maximum cost set at $375,000 for District 1, $635 for District 2, and $815 for District 3. So that totals $1,825,000. So we did a bond resolution for that on June 16th. Right here was just a quick calculation divided by 40, so that is what the cost will probably be per year, plus interest, if we do it over 40 years. But that is just my estimate, not from our bond council or our municipal advisors. That will be coming at some point in the future. But right now, we just did the bond resolution to get this off the ground. If you want a copy of it, it is available at the town clerk's office, or I believe not possibly on the website. And then also, in addition to the water tanks, that was 1.8 million. We also have water line repairs needed. Most of them in District 1. There's a few that might cross into District 2. This is the list that we got for 2020. We also have the list going back every year from Erie County Water. And you can see that some of these breaks were first noted for recommendation 2008 spanning. Some of them are 2020, but there's a whole range there. And they said that our average of breaks in District 1 is 6 a year. So not great. You can see Heinrich Road has the most, and then Herman Hill is pretty close behind it. So tracking based on where the recommendation for repairs are, our engineer CPL, Clark Patterson Link, they created this diagram here as part of their application for grant funding. And they estimate the project to come in at $10,235,000 for the water replacement, and then pump station of another $400,000 to have a total project cost of $10,638,000. And then they took it in at 3% interest rate for 30 years. They have 1875 parcels in there getting water, so they just did a division to get the estimated debt service per year per unit, which would be $289 per house for this project for 30
Does that
years.
include the tanks?
This is
That's just
separate
the
from the
water
tanks.
lines, okay.
This is just the water lines. So we've been working on this, and here's some more things from the reports. This is how it breaks out. Mobilization, 2% of costs. Replace, these are taken from the list before, replace water line, replace water line, replace water line. Those are all tied to different parts of that list. So that's how they do that. And then here is the pump station improvements. They're gonna need new pumps, new pumping modifications, new roof, new door, and the totals together come to the amount seen here. So that, again, this is just another display of that. Construction costs, they said would be $7.4 million. Engineering will be $1.2 million. Other expenses, contingencies, it would get you the total project cost of $10.6 million. Insurance would take it up to $10.9 million. But then you carry that over to there, and that is again just blown up bigger. The cost calculation, they figured that if you divide it straight by parcel, the cost per year would be $289 per house per year that's on the district. That could change, will change based on how much we actually bond out. It will change based on how much the project costs. It will change based on if we go ad valorem or straight per parcel. But that is right now the estimate that we're working with. And in comparison, right now, Water District 1 pays about $30 per year, based on the slide I had previously. So we're gonna have to go from $30 up to $290, which is the reason for this year's 40% increase, to kind of slowly ramp it up instead of just in 2 or 3 years saying you're gonna have a $250 increase. So it'll help us build fund balance and help keep the costs down once we actually get to the actual bonding or banding. So our potential funding sources, I know you can't read this, but that says WIA, New York State Environmental, EFC, I can't remember the acronym, but it's the Drinking Water Revolving Fund, USDA. We applied for CDBG. We are applying for WIA at the November 3rd board meeting. We are, I believe, applying to the EFC. Our grant writer Connie is doing those applications in combination with the engineer and with Erie County Water. And then we plan to use our American Rescue Plan funds towards it. And then we will have to either ban or bond the rest, most likely ban, which is a bond anticipation note, which is short-term financing, and then once the project is complete, we'll bond those out for 10.8 roughly. So we did, after applying for CDBG, we got $150,000 towards Meadow and Ripple drive replacement, so that cuts a little off. But our recent well water advisory kind of put this into everyone's mind and brought it to the forefront, because we were kind of hoping to wait till after the tank repairs were done to do this, but with almost the whole town losing water, we are starting that process now of going about this water line replacement. So the engineer is suggesting phase 1 be this part in green, which I blew up a little bigger. It is down by the far north end of town. It is by the 219, I believe. It is Heinrich Road to Zimmerman, you're correct. Zimmerman to Back Creek, South Abbott to Herman Hill to Boston State, and Valley Circle Lane. So that's how the costs will come out. So the first phase of this project would be 3.8 million. So that is 3.8 of the 10.8, and then they plan to break this project into 3 phases, do them as geographically best as they can, so that you're only taking parts of the town out at a time, and not out, but doing it in the same area, getting all of the resources in the same area at the same time, instead of having the contractor jump all over the place.
Would
So-
that take several years then?
Yes, this project will take several years. They said if everything were to go right without supply chain and without backlog at the county, they would suggest a phase per year, so 3.8 per year, or 3.5 per year, give or take, whatever it works out to. But I know we've been discussing, and Erie County is backlogged with their health permits and their soil testing and whatever else they need to do. I'm not too familiar.
I can jump in.
Yeah.
So, feel free to keep that side. So, the phase approach is essentially a 3-phase approach, at least as of today, based off of material availability, contractor availability. We all know that the federal government is focusing on infrastructure, but now that there's money out there and the focus is on infrastructure, everyone is scrambling for the same resources. So instead of taking on one large project for the town of Boston, total, at least in today's dollars, that'll look over $10 million, break it out into a 3-phase approach. So instead of taking out a larger project, smaller projects, we can get more competition, try to get more bidding competition, keep that cost down. And then also, it was Clark Patterson strategically designed it where instead of having contractors jump from, let's say, the north end of town down to the south end of town and then back up again, it's not good time management. So let's try to take that punch list that we receive from Erie County Water Authority, focus in that area. That's the, then hit that phased approach and we kind of go right down through. And you can see by that kind of that olive green colored area, that's Water District 1. That's the main, as I call it, the main artery. If it wasn't for Water District 1,
Right down the valley.
yeah, the other districts would not have water. We learned that by the 2 lateral breaks. Since this is all on record, what ended up happening, we had a 10-foot lateral break on Patchen Road, which ended up creating some severe stress, or adding some severe stress to our system. Once the water was reintroduced, there was a secondary break on Boston State Road, creating another 10-foot lateral break, which ended up draining the whole south end of town and the Concord water tank, and hence the water project. So, anyway, that's the approach that we have right now. But again, over the years, it's hard to say what's going to happen with the cost of material, cost of labor, cost of engineering. So hence the 3-phased approach to try to keep those costs down. Like Ellie was stating, the bank anticipation notes. From the financial advisor, the plan is that we would be paying the interest only on those. Take those smaller bands and, as Ellie stated, wrap those up with a bond and then move forward to keep those costs down. Another thing that the town board, we just approved at the last board meeting was a district overlay. Don't want to take away anything valuable, but we have a district overlay that's another option, we'll say, in the toolbox. where you can take all the shaded areas that have public water and spread that cost out across all the districts to help keep some of that cost down. Just a tool in the toolbox, something Clark
That
Patterson Lee
won't really
recommended.
be, that won't really be used for this current
Till later.
project though,
Yeah,
unless
for later, right.
potential end of the project still costs, but you can't have a bond resolution out there saying water just one's gonna have this cost and then come back and overlay and be like, oh, nope, it's gonna be all districts. That has to be in the bond resolution at the beginning, so the ones that we have going right now, the water tanks, they're out, the bond resolution's out there, so they'll be on all 3 districts for their own tanks. The water district 1, the bond resolution will be coming at one of the next few meetings, and that will be saving just for district 1 as of right now. So. And district 2, if there's cost, the engineer's breaking that out. Did you get that yet?
No, nothing yet.
Engineer's taking an extra look at that.
So your first year would only be, say, a $3 million ban.
Yes.
Next year, maybe $6 million to encompass
Yes.
both of it, refinancing,
Yes.
and then the last one you do a bond, or maybe carry it for 5 years and then do the bond.
Correct. And the financial advisor and bond counsel both recommended doing the full 10.8 or whatever the number works out to be at the bond resolution, so that when we have the ability to go out for financing for the $3 million, it's already approved and pretty much ready to go.
What size water main are you running through town now?
What size water main?
What size?
Yeah, what size pipe are you using?
It varies. Truth, I'd have to look, I could show you. I have a map of that from the American Water Authority. It varies. It goes from, there's 8-inch mains, there's a 10-inch, there's a 10-inch, there's a 12-inch. Like the main that broke on Boston State, with that, off the top of my head, I believe that was a 10-inch main, and that was in pretty bad disrepair. Which is going back to the one slide where the town was notified years ago about some of these breaks. I mean, yeah, there should have been.
I live off Henderson. It's just peppered with breaks, you know, where you see where they can drive.
Yep.
Digging. But I was just wondering, when you do this replacement, are you going to make it all the same size main? You know, you're taking in accordance possibly more residential places that are going to be needing water too at the same time?
That is, so that's a great question. So, well,
It's not filled out right now.
I believe.
Yep.
So, hopefully this will work. That will, perfect. All right. So, the world of water, you follow the green dot here, all these dead ends that you see, all these straight blue lines, they're dead ends. They are not our friend when it comes to water, because what happens is if you have a break, you can see how much my hand shakes here. If a break happens here, that whole street loses water. What you really want to have is something like this down here where we have a loop. So if there's a break, clamp, fix the break, everybody still has water, and now there's maybe 1 or 2 parcels affected. So that's the other thing Clark Patterson is taking a pretty solid look at, is that while we're out there, while we're already digging in the ground, is there opportunity to create loops? That's an ask. Actually just today, just this evening before I came here, there's a resident up on Herman Hill Road, short length of area from just south of Woodley Court to South Abbott. No water line. Those folks would like some water, so we're going to look at possibly connecting that there. So there's a lot of other projects, but what the main focus is try to fix what we have now, because of the fact that it's literally falling apart in the ground. It's a mix of, water one is a mix of ductile and cast iron. Off the top of my head, I do not believe there's any plastic line in there.
And most of it's the original,
It is the, right, exactly.
back to 1960, 63-ish.
Yeah. So just a few years old. It's definitely met its life expectancy. The other districts, 2 and other ones, they do have some mixed in plastic. Everything right now is being spec'd out as plastic. Right now, engineering costs, today's price, you're looking at about $240 per linear foot for plastic pipe right now in the ground. There is an option if the town, the town/town board wanted to go with ductile iron and cast, you can go with that same pipe. There's an opportunity to wrap that pipe to keep the contaminants or keep it from breaking down as quickly. But as you might imagine, the price goes up because of that. You're paying, labor hours, et cetera, to wrap that pipe. So, most are going to the way of plastic, and at least that's what the way everything's being spec'd out right now. But, great question. So we're taking a lot of things into account, because if we're going into some of these areas, and again, that one, I used the example I was just working on tonight, that short area. If we have to do a repair there and we've got some line, maybe it's the right choice to actually fix that. It's one of the other things that's in the presentation. This is relatively new, but Erie County Water Authority came back, the town board's aware of this, but they wanted bleed-off valves on the dead-end streets, because once we had that full, basically drainage of the system, it took a lot of time to restore that water pressure because they had to bleed out all the air. Air can be compressed, water is not compressed. And what ended up happening when they reintroduced that water, the air compressed, and the thing like a balloon basically blew up the pipes, which is when the patching break happened, they fixed it, reintroduced water, now you got water trapped in the system and cracked over on Boston State. So, and then there's a smaller crack, off the top of my head, I think that was a 7 or 8, it wasn't huge, but it's a 7 or 8 inch, 7 or 8 inch long crack in one of the pipes over on Hillcroft. So that's what happened. So the idea is that pressurize the system, have those bleeder valves bleed off the air, so you don't have to have a crew or crews running around, opening up the fire hydrants and bleeding them off for a long period of
Wasn't
time.
there one at Sunset too?
Sunset, that wasn't recently, but there was a big one on Sunset that, created some problems.
Yeah, I live on a dead end, my water pressure valve is right at 100 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, Erie County Department of Health is, the requirement is a minimum of 50 PSI for fire protection. So when we're taking into account if there's going to be a build out or adding additional water line, we have to go and hit that 50 PSI mark minimum. So then that's what determines, do we need a pump station, do we need a water tower, does the existing infrastructure support that, to your exact question point. So those are all the different components and facets that we're taking into account.
Okay.
We're going through all that. Yeah, great question, thank you.
So that's, just back on the list, that is, all the stars are, the phase 1 is gonna target, and then phase 2 and 3 would be the other ones, and any additional ones that come up, I guess. So then, any other projects that we are looking to do outside of water, we still have the drainage improvement area is something we've been working on. That's why we put money in the budget every year for the, we put in the reserve fund if we don't use it. And then looking to get a upgraded building at North Boston, potentially use Harpa Funds, the American Rescue Plan Fund, because you can use that for outdoor inviting people to be outdoors, basically. So that's a potential, but we are applying for, I believe, CDBG with that. And then we are in the process of salt barn roof and then highway vehicles every year. So, any comments, questions? Let us know. Now or any day. Public hearing is next week.
You know, I will add real quick, just I'll touch base on the ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds. So the town of Boston will be receiving the total amount of a little over $840,000 total federal tax dollars in 2 separate tranches. We already received the first tranche, $410,000. Second one comes next summer. Water and infrastructure, that's the easy low-hanging fruit. So, which is where, as a town board, we decided this is what basically is needed right now, so we're shifting in the funding there. When Ellie's talking about the CDBG for 2022, the North Boston Park, the old snack shack that's been kind of mothballed for many years, needs some TLC. We put it out last year, we didn't score, we were just 0.3 of a point low from qualifying. So I figured we'll throw our hat in the ring again this year, and if we can hit that, it's 100 up. It's not 150,000 like it was last year, it's only 100,000 this year. But if we can hit that 150 or the $100,000 mark in the allotment from CDBG, then the town board, can discuss, do we want to use the American Rescue Plan funds to offset that match, the difference there, and kind of clean up that park. We've been trying to go through all the different parks. Senator Gallivan was kind enough to get us a DASNY grant for the playground equipment down at Boston Park. We've been doing some things here, and then now show some attention down to the North Boston area. So that's kind of the plans of the American Rescue Plan funds. Talking about water, I've had a lot of people ask, is that what we're going to use it for? And the answer is almost definitely, because that $840,000, when you're looking at the total dollar amount that we're looking at here, that's going to go very quickly, sadly. So,
And it benefits the whole town.
and it benefits the whole community, exactly. Exactly.
So we will be putting these slides on the town website for people to further view, read into it, look at it, because I know some of it I just skipped over because it was too small to read, all of the departmental information if you want to go back and look at that. So yeah, we're also available for questions, not just from you guys, but from anyone who wants to reach out.
You did an excellent job.
Yeah, I think so.
That got one of your